2 games remain in the Premier League here at the World Championship Series as we're looking for the last player to advance to the playoffs. 7 have qualified, and now it's time to find the last one. To help me do that, we have In Control and Pig joining me on the desk. Group D with 2 Terrans and a Zerg trying to fight their way through. I know the Zerg stands above the rest for you. In Control.
Yep. Yeah, and he needs it. We're talking about BlizzCon all week long. It's kind of a big subject here in the StarCraft land, and Jaedong pretty much has to win convincingly here. But in order to do so, he has to get past iaguz, but then also 4GG, who also needs to win.
Yeah, so if we do see that eventual winners match, that is going to be one to explode up. But we're not there yet. We do have iaguz, a keen and eager Australian, which we'll talk about with you in a second, Pig. As let's bring up the bracket to show you where we are with Group D. We played it last night, and we saw Lil Boat go through defeating both Jaedong and 4GG, putting his mark on the Season 3 finals. And what a play he showed us, and hopefully he continue to do well over the weekend, but it's time to find out who will join him. And now it's time to talk about our series on hand. Jaedong versus iaguz. Pig, what's your first thoughts looking at this?
I mean, this is an interesting match because iaguz, he's not on the same level as Jaedong overall, but he likes his Zerg versus Terran. He's a strong TvZ player, loves to push in, and he's one of these guys who's like, you think back to the parade style of TvZ,
yep.
And most Terrans have moved away from it, and iaguz is still there, but he does it incredibly well. He surprised last season, took out TLO very convincingly 2-0, but then in the rematch went down, and that's kind of what we see a lot from iaguz is when the game ramps up, and if the Zerg player figures out I can put the pressure back on you in 3 or 4 locations, suddenly iaguz can struggle with his multitasking. And if there's ever a master of multitasking out there, it's got to be Jaedong.
Yeah, absolutely. And we can continue to look at iaguz. He's now just set up on the main stage. He's joined us now for multiple seasons in a row and continues to get better and better results gradually. He's obviously not jumping too far ahead of himself, but he's getting the results. He's slowly making his way, and he's becoming a very consistent player that we have in the Premier League, Jeff.
Yeah, he's been consistently getting here and doing fairly well. It's always interesting to hear from him. He's just kind of an interesting guy, but he's always just very very paltry about like how he views himself in the WCS. He's like, this is where I want to be, and that's good. You know, and like he's like, I want to get to the next stage, maybe. You know, like it's very interesting to ask him about. He's not. I don't know. It's like he's definitely in competition, but he would be an interesting case study for a sports psychologist. It's like, what do you think of yourself? He's like, I'm worse than everybody here. If I can make people laugh, that's good enough. It's like, whoa, what a weird answer.
And that's definitely iaguz, though. He comes in, and he's never one of these cocky players to be very cocky or blunt. He's very, he kind of undersells himself a lot. He doesn't come out with that stellar confidence, but that doesn't necessarily make him count him out because he does always come in and he does have these great builds. And even though in his first match of the round of 16 against 4GG, he came out and a lot of people said, well, he kind of got flattened, but his build order choices are always very, very intelligent and very smart. And he actually got ahead very early on against 4GG, but 4GG found a way to up the ante, and it's at those moments, if you can increase the mechanical speed of the game to the point where there's heaps of things happening at once, I think that is probably the key to defeating iaguz here for Jaedong.
And it seems like Jaedong holds that very key then, because you know the type of player that Jaedong is. He likewise joins iaguz on the main stage, and there's a lot ahead of Jaedong. He's got a lot of work to do. He comes in as ranked number 30, but he wants more than anything In Control, and you can back this up time after time after time. He wants to play at BlizzCon more than anything else.
Yeah, he comes from a tradition of not being used to not just automatically being on the absolute biggest stage and playing for the biggest prize pools against the best opponents. StarCraft 2 has been a bit of an adjustment period for him. He's no longer just, you know, 100,000% into the pro gaming life. He's become a little bit of a young man, and while he still does pro game, he is also seeing the world a little bit and kind of enjoying life outside of gaming. But at the same time, he is a fierce competitor. He's kind of famous for that death stare that he used to give in the booth because he wanted it so bad. So for him to have these obstacles in his way, you better watch out, because he's not thinking about the round of 8. He's not even thinking about the round of 4. He's thinking about BlizzCon. Those are just things that he has to achieve to get there.
players around the world, whether they be, you know, Gold League to Master League to Grandmaster to semi-professional to real professional, study Jaedong? What is it about him that really stands out above the other Zerg players that we often see play?
Jaedong historically is so fast, so mechanical, such a beast. Going back to the Brood War days, but also when he made that swap over to StarCraft 2, it wasn't just his reputation which made him so famous in StarCraft 2. I mean, it was the fact that he came over and he had some of the best mechanics in the game. He was one of the first guys who actually streamed a lot at that level of mechanics. So he's one of the first players a lot of people in the Zerg scene got to watch this guy first person and just be blown away at how fast he was and how he'd always try to seek out a situation in the game where he could fight in 2 places at once, where he could fight in 3 places at once. And that's the kind of guy he is. He's always aggressive. He's always looking for every edge he can take. And going back to since when he first debuted as a pro gamer, he's not afraid to take risks. He always talks about the bluff.
Yeah, we'll see and hopefully see that come to fashion here, because he's going to need to as he goes up against iaguz, the parade pushers we like to call him here in the WCS. Let's take a look at the map pool here. I know I made that up on the spot. I guess you called me out there, Jeff.
Yeah.
Let's have a look at the 3 maps that we have in this best of 3. It's going to be Coda, Cactus Valley, and Iron Fortress. Once again, maps that we've seen time after time after time. Pig, you got some thoughts on this maps for this matchup?
No, well, iaguz picking Coda, Jaedong picking Cactus Valley, and then Iron Fortress last. I mean, what I have to see here, of course, and something we haven't talked about yet, is Cactus Valley, quite a good map for mech. Coda, a good map for mech. Iron Fortress, the last map, which I'm sure Jaedong's kind of happy with. Very good for Zerg because the bases are spread out. If you want to try and pick away at the Terran, run counterattacks in, I think that's a really good map for Jaedong. But I think surviving to get there may be tricky if iaguz has a bit of mech in his hat. Because
You say that, but does he ever show
does
mech?
he?
He has in the past. He hasn't done it in a while, but considering he's known this group, he's known this draw for a while, he's been preparing, and Jaedong recently has not played a lot of high-level ZVT games. If you're studying his history, you're seeing recent losses to a lot of non-Korean players using mech. I mean, not a lot, but 3 or 4 matches. And there hasn't really been any other losses. So, as iaguz, he may have spent the last few weeks actually practicing up some mech ZVT. He's been a dabbler before, but he may have dived in head first.
Is that something that that Jaedong could be anticipating here coming out of play? I mean, it is becoming more and more popular recently.
It is definitely in the meta, so in that sense, I do agree with you. I think that's something that he certainly has kind of on his radar. But kind of like we heard from Hydra, I don't think Jaedong has a whole lot of intel on iaguz specifically. Like, iaguz has been in WCS, so certainly if you look, there are some matches there, and we, you know, like you referenced, the TvZ against TLO is a nice indicator, which was pure bioplay, just very good parade push.
Yep.
But otherwise, Jaedong, he kind of, you could say, suffers as well from the same mentality as some of these guys like Hydra do, where they're like, I'm the best, I don't need to look up this guy. If I play my game, they can't keep up. That is true, but it's becoming like less and less true as these foreigners continue to get better.
All right, thank you very much, gentlemen. Time to look at the predictions here. As, of course, of always, we've been following them throughout the week. And this is an up-to-date ranking of where we've been so far. I've gone to 56, yes. I've gone up 6%. Nathanius, though, blinking at still at 78% in the lead. Funker fallen a little bit behind at 67. Pig, 61. Not bad.
Down at 3rd, not too bad.
Jeff, you've climbed up a little bit, but you're still in last place.
Yeah, literally a whole percentage.
Yeah, 1% extra, but you're in last place.
Yeah.
Sorry about that again. Seems, I hope you can change that. You're only 5% away from Todd.
I just find it funny that Nathanius has like this prodigious rate right now, and yet he's like the least kind of gambly kind of guy out there. So right now I think there's a few people think if they can get a hold of Nate as a magic 8-ball and kind of use him to make bets on StarCraft matches, they could be into some good profit.
Well, he's got a pretty close relationship with Rotterdam, so...
Let's have a look at the lower third predictions this time to see who's chosen who to win this match. I'm interested. 8-0. Boys, a whitewash, and we've only had 1 or 2 of these this week. Everybody's on Jaedong's side.
And a couple of times we've been all completely wrong. So, I mean, it'd be a huge upset. I don't think it'd be the... it might be the biggest upset if iaguz beat him, but I don't know. We've had some... I think at elimination stage, this would be the biggest one. But we'll see. iaguz also... kind of, as you were saying, like undersells himself.
Yeah.
I don't think he gets super nervous. I mean, maybe he does. Maybe he'd tell you he absolutely does, but that might be him underselling it as well. Who knows? But he's a good TvZ player specifically. It's 08, but it's because it's Jaedong. It's not because it's iaguz, I think.
Yeah, all right. Thank you very much, gentlemen. It's time to get to the game now as they are ready to play, and we're ready to get the commentary underway.
Time to find out if iaguz is going to switch things up and go away from that bio play, or if we're going to have a straight-up bio TvZ, in which case I'm a little bit worried for our Australian Terran.
I would be a little bit worried as well, but he has shown us very promising things in the past when it comes to TvZ. And he's also a player that does do a lot of homework. Like we've seen him before in a couple of the previous seasons where he watches one series of his opponent and then he just spots out weaknesses. And the build order he decided to go for is not a build that he generally uses in all TvZs. No, it's a build that he thinks is going to be best against this specific opponent. And that's kind of what he needs to hope for, right, if he wants to take out this man.
It's going to be a challenge to defeat this man in the southeast position, the blue Zerg from Team Evil Geniuses. It's Jaedong.
Looking very focused, but still very calm throughout the entirety of this day. And this man, well, he's just kind of been the same man as he always is. He's happy, he's cheerful, and he tries to be funny, but he's also very good at StarCraft. It is iaguz.
Presenting Root Gaming. Root has had a pretty good year WCS-wise. You've got Hydra backing you up, iaguz with consistent performances.
Kalazur with a couple of appearances.
Yeah, it's been
Masa with a couple of appearances here and there. Absolutely very successful year for Root. When it comes to iaguz, he's also had a good year. This is the second out of 3 seasons in this year, particularly that he made it to the round of 16. And he said it in one of the interviews. He's like, round of 16 is great. I got that step now a couple of times. I want to go further. I want to see if I can push myself towards the round of 8. And that would, of course, be a massive achievement. So we've already have a couple of newcomers in the round of 8 this season. Zenster, Mana as well. So perhaps we'll see one more. But needless to say, iaguz has a very, very tough road ahead of him with first Jaedong. And if he would overcome Jaedong, then of course 4GG is waiting for him.
Yeah, and that match for him yesterday, certainly not the prettiest that we've seen here in the World Championship Series. It was tough. It was tough, and that's, I think, one of the reasons why a lot of people are going to be counting out iaguz. Jaedong has a reputation for being just kind of consistent. Even if he's not at the top of his form, he's still going to show up and play a pretty good game. iaguz had a really, really hard time struggling against just mostly like 4GG's opening plays.
I'm very curious to see how Jaedong is going to play in this series, and above all, how convincing it's going to be, because it has to be convincing, right? Like, if Jaedong gets a very scrappy 2-1 victory over here, that can't possibly feel good for him going into 4GG for the next round, especially because 4GG has shown us some absolutely phenomenal TvZ in the past, and he's always been kind of an expert in that matchup.